And welcome back to a closer look. With me again from the Alzheimer's Association of East Tennessee, Meredith Sieber and Tabitha Ebert. I believe I got that right. I hope anyway. Let's talk about the new Alzheimer's Association survey, what it has revealed concerning dramatic impact of what Alzheimer's is having on families.
Well, we're seeing through that survey how many hours of unpaid caregiving families are providing, the toll it's taking on those families. Because we see families, who are putting themselves in financial dyers because they either can't afford to pay someone to come in the home and care for their loved one, and they're just not in that place where they can put their loved one into an assisted living or a long-term care facility yet. So it's given us a chance to really see the impact that this is having in the homes individually.
Are we making a lot of dramatic impact in this disease and finding a cure or finding something that can reverse this maybe?
We are seeing a great impact. We're determined that by the year 2025 to have a cure for this disease. Now, what we feel like that's going to entail is going to kind of almost be a cocktail of drugs. We feel that it's going to be something that's more on the prevention side, so getting people early on. So with the PET scan study that I spoke about earlier, being able to identify this disease, because until about 4 years ago, we couldn't diagnose it 100% accurately unless we did a postmortem autopsy. Now being able to diagnose it with 100% accuracy, we can actually start treating the disease early on with clinical drugs are still in clinical phases, and hopefully be able to combat it and nip it in the bud before it ever becomes an issue.
For people like myself that do not know a lot about Alzheimer's, we hear the word, we hear the term, but a lot of times we don't know what it means. How does it affect a person?
It will affect a lot of different ways. One thing people will start seeing is the changes in personality, changes in mood, changes in losing interest in things that they normally used to do. Then you'll just start seeing a gradual progression of basically them losing themselves. You start seeing them withdrawing from things. You start seeing them not being able to remember newly learned information, which then, it starts progressing and getting worse and getting worse. Some people actually lose speech altogether. Some people forget how to even eat at some point. It gets to the point where someone might even no longer even be able to walk at the very end of the disease.
So it really affects each individual person maybe differently.
Absolutely. If you've met one person with Alzheimer's, you've met one person with Alzheimer's. They are all completely different. Some people, we've seen some people who tell stories about how their loved ones were vegetarians before they got a diagnosis, and now all of a sudden they love hamburgers. Some of those little things, but each person is completely different. And people always ask about the life expectancy of this disease. We've seen it be anywhere from 4 to 8 years, but we've seen some people who've lived with it for upwards to 20 years.
Yeah, and that in itself, the longer, I'm sure the extension of that is really hard on families as they have to deal with it, because they deal with that loved one maybe not recognizing them or maybe not knowing who they are and that sort of thing.
Yes, it's almost like losing your loved one twice. They call it, the long goodbye, because it is. Because even though your loved one is right there in front of you, their memory and them not knowing who you are, you've kind of already lost a part of them.
Well, we talk about June being the Alzheimer's and Brain Awareness Month, but Meredith, you have the Paint the Town Gala coming up, and that's something that you're proud of, I'm sure.
Yes, June 22nd. It's at the Martha Washington Inn. Our presenting sponsor is Commonwealth Senior Living of Abingdon, Virginia. But it's a great way to bring people together to raise awareness about Alzheimer's disease, most importantly, especially since it's June, Brain Awareness Month. But most importantly, fundraise. Bring those dollars in to bring in research and get us closer to finding a cure for the disease.
Now, you have all types of events, I'm sure, that go on year-round. Yeah. Because this is, like you say, it's just not a one-month thing. This is something that people deal with every day.
Yes. We have a lot of different events. So coming up in August, we are going to be doing a Paint the Park Purple with the Kingsport Mets. I'll have to get back to you on the date on that. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I'll give you the information for it. So we have that coming up. But we also have our Walk to End Alzheimer's coming up. We have 2 walks. September 30th in Johnson City. It'll be at Willow Springs Park. Our registration starts at 9 a.m.
Okay.
People can still build their teams, participate in the walk. All you have to do is go to alz.org/walk, and you can find the walk in your area. We also have a Kingsport walk, October 21st. It's going to be at Warriors Path Park. Same time, 9 a.m. registration starts. We've already started to do bring back our past team captains. We're always looking for new teams. Sponsorships, we're still going out and trying to find sponsorships for our walk. We have some big goals this year. So I would really love to see us really surpass those goals, because Alzheimer's is very important. We need to break the stigmatism. Walk to End Alzheimer's is a great time just to bring in families who are experiencing the signs and symptoms of the disease, as well as caregivers, patients themselves. We've had a couple people with the disease come to the walk as well, because they're in those early stages, so they can't attend. But it's a great way to just celebrate, the trials and tribulations that go along with this disease.
Well, it's got to be horrific, and the more we talk about it, the more we put it out there, the more that people are going to understand just exactly how this all works, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
definitely.
And if people want to get involved, they just need to go to your webpage, right?
They need to go to our webpage. It's alz.org/ALTN, but also follow us on Facebook. Alzheimer's Association, Northeast Tennessee. You can find our little handle tagline on Facebook. We're constantly posting events, things that Tabitha and I are doing in the community. Paint the Town Gala, you can still purchase tickets for those. They're available on Eventbrite. Anytime we have events surrounding the walks that we have coming up, we'll be posting about those. So that's a perfect way to follow us throughout the week.
So people need to get their teams together now, and
they need to get their teams together now, because like Molly, she's already gotten a head start in getting the fundraising together. She's already gotten over $1,000 raised. So she's gotten her t-shirt. She's already gotten a couple incentive prizes. We have a whole package of different items that you can win based on how much money you raise. So, it's nice to have a little item to go along with, feeling that accomplishment of raising money for a good cause.
absolutely. And like we were saying, most American families are not prepared
Nope.
when this faces them. Is there any way to prepare people for this?
Get education about it early. Learn about it. Talk to your doctor. Anytime you see something that could be alarming, make sure that's not something that could be easily treated, like a thyroid issue or depression or anxiety. But talk about it. Talk about it. Make sure that if you see a warning sign in someone that you know or love, even though that can be a hard thing to address and to bring up, do it. Please do it, because the earlier that you can get help and then get connected to different resources like us, we kind of like to be that middleman, because we know that when people walk out of the doctor's office with a diagnosis, they don't always know where to go. So if we can get connected with those families and kind of help point them in the right direction, and a lot of times all it takes is just speaking up.
Well, and I think most people, if there are signs out there that they may be going through some problems,
Right.
I don't think it's going to really perturb them too much to have that checked and find out, because like you say, there are cases, and will be more cases as time goes on, where you can kind of reverse this thing, or possibly reverse it.
That's what we're hoping with it. That we'll be able to, as treatment progresses, as treatments are approved by the FDA, that we'll get to the point that we'll be able to either reverse it, stop it, or treat this disease. Because right now we don't have a way to do either one of those with this disease. But that's our hopes for it. But we always know that it could be something else. If it is one of those things that could be treated, or if it's a heart issue, or if someone's having strokes that may have been undiagnosed, that could be a form of being able to reverse some symptoms.
And folks shouldn't be afraid to talk to their physicians about this at all and discuss that. to let them know, hey, there may be something going on with me, or there may be something going on with my
Be
loved
an
one.
advocate for your health. That's the most important thing. Ask questions, second guess things. Don't just, let one diagnosis be, the end all. Double check yourself.
Right. I mean, as the old adage says, it's better to be safe than sorry.
Right.
And in this situation, like you say, you're hoping for something to happen where we can get a cure for this. I mean, and it's horrible what you're seeing now, and a cure would be something magnificent.
It would be
Absolutely.
phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal, because, weekly we have people who come in our office or call us and say, I've been diagnosed with dementia, and we talk to them about the care that they've went through, and it's, well, I've had, one doctor who's diagnosed me, and even though we can't, we never challenge what their doctor tells them or anything like that, we would want to encourage them, like Meredith said, to take accountability for their health, to seek a second opinion, to just make sure that it's not something else, that it's not something else that could be treated, or something even more serious.
So get checked early on. If you see people that maybe you see some early signs, get that person the help they need.
Absolutely. Give them our contact information. We'll be happy to talk with them, because everything we do is completely free. We don't charge for a thing that we do, but we'll be happy to talk to them and get them the resources that they need.
And again, as you go out and around, remember that June is Alzheimer's and Brain Awareness Month, and that's something that you can be aware of and make sure that you get the message out to everybody else.
Yes.
Thank you all for being with me today and for sharing your stories and some things that may save our lives in the future.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.